How are you? How's Ancestry nowadays?
Oh gosh, things are so busy all the time. We're making some changes to my Barefoot Genealogist stuff on YouTube, but things are good. How are things at Family Chartmasters?
Oh, you know, I have such a great team. I'm so blessed. And they're knocking it out of the park with beautiful charts.
I love that.
Hey!
Good to see you.
Hi!
Oh, it's so good to see you.
I'm so glad you could join us for lunch. It's been like an age. We're just knocking things all over the place.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, I'm so glad that I moved to Utah.
Yay. Well, we're so glad you're here because I know we've been talking on Slack and Zoom, and I think, you know, like having you here in Utah, we'll be able to get together more often.
Yes, like this for lunch.
Yeah.
So fun.
Very fun. You know, I'm having such a struggle. I wish there was a way to help people do genealogy better so that they can make beautiful charts. Like, I need people to be able to do genealogy, right?
Yeah.
So true. So every time I give a presentation, you guys know, at the very end, what do I always say? Do genealogy. And yet, I feel like I'm not doing a very good job helping people actually do genealogy.
Climbing a family tree shouldn't be hard, and yet people sometimes make it really hard.
I agree.
You know, we are three strong, smart women.
You say that all the time.
There ought to be a system. There ought to be like, we ought to be able to come up with like some kind of method that would help every genealogist every time in every situation become unstuck. Like we've got 60 plus years of experience in this industry here. How do we come up with something that will help people actually make progress on their genealogy goals?
I agree. So, where do we think people are getting stuck?
Well, I have a lot of ideas, but you know what? We know a whole lot of genealogists.
We do know a whole lot of genealogists. Well, all right. Where are you guys getting stuck? Just shout it out. Raise of hands. Where are you stuck in your family history? Germany.
Louisiana research. You should
Louisiana
take some notes.
research.
Oh, I should take some notes.
Take some notes.
Okay.
Ireland, what did you say? Disorganized. Oh, just disorganized, not keeping everything straight. Yeah. Slovakia. Poland. Ireland.
Places, like what are you getting stuck on?
Yeah.
Why are you stuck?
Who are your ancestors that you can't find? What's that? Oh, it's all been done.
Oh, it's all been done.
Vital records. Birthplaces. Missing census records, 1890. What did you say? Maiden names.
How long have you all been stuck?
How long? How long have you been stuck? Divorce records. Years. How many? Tell me how many years have you been stuck? 20, 10. A lot. Guys,
Oh gosh, okay.
a lot of stuck years.
So I think these genealogists are telling us some things. This is what I'm hearing. What did you catch, Janet?
So 20-year brick walls, burned records,
Yeah.
Missing records, yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
same named people, alien invasions.
I think that's a common one.
Okay,
I
so
heard somebody say that.
Yeah.
so these are their problems, but what do they need to succeed?
Right. I mean, it's not like we can bring back records or document alien invasions.
You know what? I think so many times the resources that people need, they're available. They just don't have a methodical process to find them.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need a framework, like a method, like a step-by-step system.
Yes, it's something that can work over and over and over again, no matter what your situation is.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's finish our lunch. Okay. And then I think if we get together again and brainstorm, we can figure this out. How's tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm in. Let's do it.
Okay,
I'm in.
Let's go.
Let's do it.
We're going this way.
I think so.
Oh, hi, guys.
All right.
Hey, all right.
Let's get to work.
Let's do this.
Okay.
So, it just went.
Oh, we dropped another one.
Okay, I think we did it.
I think we did it.
Yes.
I think we did it.
I don't know. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we have this framework now, and it makes sense to us. But is it going to make sense to other people?
Well, we have lots of genealogy friends. Let's ask them.
Well, we could.
Hey, friends, it's you again. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so in our method, step one, we just came up with this, so we're gonna have to see if this works. Step one is to ask the right question.
Yeah.
Now, when I was growing up, my mom used to tell us this story about this man who lost his car keys. And he was out in the street looking for his car keys. And his neighbor kept peeking out the window. And like 10 minutes goes by, 20 minutes goes by. This guy now is like on his hands and knees in the street, looking around. And finally the neighbor goes out and he says, "Hey, buddy, what can I help you with?" And he said, "I lost my car keys and I can't find them anywhere." And he said, "I've been looking and looking and looking for like 20 years. And the man said, the neighbor said, well, okay, let's do this. Where was the last place you had them?" And he said, "Well, I had them in my hand and I was in the house." Okay, and then that's the last place you remember having them? Yes. "Well, why are you out here looking for them?" "Oh, well, because the street light is on here, and so I can see better here." Do you ever feel like, some of y'all do that, right? Some of y'all think, "Oh, well, this is online, and I've looked online, because that's where the records are," right? That's where the light is better. And I think sometimes we do that, right?
Absolutely. So to translate Krista's story into a step that you can take no matter where you're at in your genealogy is to think about, where are you shining that spotlight? What is your research question, and have you refined it and defined it in a way that allows you to shine the spotlight in the right place? So for example, if I want to research my ancestor, Joseph Butterfield, but I want to know who his parents are. After all, I already know Joseph, I have his name, it's on my chart. There's stuff falling out of my dress. It's okay. If you have him on your chart, you're like, great, I'm done, let's move on to the next generation. And so you work and work and work to try to find Joseph Butterfield's parents. But instead, you should be looking directly at Joseph Butterfield. You don't even have a birth certificate for him. You don't have his marriage record. And yet you have his name, so you feel like it's time to move back. Instead, we should shine our spotlight in the right place to give us answers to the people we already have, and then let those records inform our search. So spotlight is the first step.
Yeah, so it's about staying focused on the right question. Sometimes we don't ask a question at all, and sometimes we're not asking the right question to get us to the answer that we need.
Okay, so now it's your turn. Here in the audience and at home, I want you to think for a minute, if you had a genealogy question, the burning genealogy question that you have right now, in 10 words or less, I want you to describe that question. Now think, I'm going to give you a second. We're going to have some silence at RootsTech for 1 second. 10 words or less. Count them on your fingers. Do you know your research question? Okay. If you could break down that genealogy wall, what would it be? Now I want you to turn and tell your neighbor what that question is. 10 words or less. Okay? And if you're at home, online, I want you to write it down. Get super focused on what your question is. Okay. So now I need 3 brave people that will tell us their spotlight question and share their research goal with us, and then we're going to see if Krista can tell us if that's a good focused spotlight question. You brave enough? Go ahead.
How much does Krista cost per hour?
That's a really
So the
question.
question was, how
Yes.
much does Krista Cowan cost per hour?
Let's just say this. I can't afford it. She can't, none of us can afford it, right? Okay, can somebody tell me their research question? Go ahead.
After my dad and mom died, I discovered my dad was married at 19. And
Okay, that's more than 10 questions. More than 10.
I want to know where the divorce record is.
Where the
You're
divorce
looking
record
for the
is.
divorce record for your father.
Or else he's a polygamist.
Okay, so let's get more specific, okay? When did your father marry your mother?
1940s.
I told you had to be
Make sure
brave.
you
You're on the
repeat it.
spot here.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Repeat it, yeah.
1946 is when her dad married her mom, and you heard a rumor, or is this?
No, I have a marriage certificate that's been.
She has a
Okay,
marriage
you have a
certificate.
marriage certificate for your dad's first marriage that happened in what year?
Probably 43.
1943, and he married your mom in 1946. Okay, so I'm looking for my dad's divorce record from his first wife sometime between 1943 and 1946. That's your research
That's
question.
your research
That's
question.
your very
That's it.
specific
Okay, do you hear the
research question.
difference though? Right, sometimes we do that. Sometimes we're just like, I need to find this record. And we never get really specific about what it is that we're looking for. And that specificity is gonna help you, and it's gonna help anybody you ask to help you. So I'm looking for my dad's divorce record sometime between 1943 and 1946. You could even get more specific and say something like, most likely in one of these 3 states. Okay, so think about exactly how you word your research question, because you're gonna get the answer that you're looking for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
the more specific or the more focused that spotlight can be, the better. Who's
Okay,
next?
I think we're gonna just take one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sandy, can you do it in 10 words or less?
Well, on the same thing that she's saying, my dad was married before.
Oh,
Okay.
do you know what? Do you have a question?
Say, my research question is.
My research question is, do you have one?
How, he never got divorced, and his first wife never got divorced, and he married.
Okay, that's not a question though.
Okay.
It's hard, right?
It is hard.
It's hard. It's hard. 10 words or less.
Why, do I have to put his first wife in genealogy, even though she married somebody else and had 6
Okay, that's a
kids?
different,
That's
that's
a-
a different question. That's
yeah.
an organization question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does somebody have a 10 words or less research
It's
question?
not easy, y'all.
It's hard.
not easy.
It's hard. Thank
Okay.
you, Sandy. Thanks for being brave.
Yes.
All right, let's take this lady here in the back with the red.
How do I get past my grandmother's maiden name change to find their marriage record?
How do I get past my grandmother's maiden name change to find their marriage record?
Okay, so your grandmother, you have a record that she was born with one name, yes? No.
No, that's what we're looking for.
How do you know she changed her name?
Because I found the record of her name change on my great uncle's birth register.
Okay, so
found the
your
record.
great uncle's birth record lists her with one name, and then you have her in other records with another name?
No, on the record it says she changed her maiden name from Cosme to Neto.
So you have both names.
I do.
Okay, so what's the problem? Say that again?
I can't find the marriage record. I don't know where she was.
Okay, so it's not about the name change. You just are looking for a marriage record for your great-grandmother. And where? In Czechoslovakia. Is that what it was at the time that the marriage happened? Huh?
It was Austria, right?
And we do this all the time. Thank you for being brave.
You're
I
awesome.
promise.
Yes,
You guys
thank
are
you for being
awesome.
brave.
Because here's the thing, right? We say things like, oh, I think it happened around this time, or oh, it happened in this place. You have to get very specific, right? So I'm looking for my great-grandmother's marriage record in what was, at the time, the Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Maybe.
Well, okay, do you know when it happened, ish?
Yeah, about 1859.
Okay, I'm gonna pull an audible.
Who knows?
Her entire research question just changed, and I don't know if you heard that. But your spotlight question is not, where's my great-grandmother's marriage record? Your spotlight question is, what was the place called at this time?
Yes.
There you go.
That's the first
Answer
question.
that question first. Focus your spotlight on that. Then you can move on to the next question.
Okay, let me summarize what just happened here. Did you guys all see this happen live right in front of you? You think you want to know the answer to one question, but you have to ask a different question first. And then you can move on to the real question that you want to know. People are stuck because they're asking the wrong question.
Yeah.
Round of applause for the people who
Yay!
volunteered to do this live at RootsTech. And round of applause for Krista
Yes.
to take them live. It's good.
Okay, so yeah,
All right.
that's the first step in our method. And yeah, I love that we are calling this a spotlight question, right?
Yeah, you get lost if you're not focused first, right?
Yep.
And I've done that, you've done that, you've done that, you guys have done that. It's hard, it's hard. I think this step really works though. Sometimes you just have to have the right question. Okay, so
And
good first step.
sometimes they don't need the right question. Sometimes they actually have the right question and they have the answer, they just don't know that they have the answer yet. So what they need to do as a next step is they need to gather up all the stuff they've already collected.
Absolutely. So many times we have all the information that we need. It's just not in the same place, and we haven't organized it in a way that helps us.
Right, so the key is to think about that first. Where do you have what you already know? Is it in a shoebox? Is it on your camera, on your phone? Is it in an old hard drive? Is it at your mom's house? Is it in your aunt's memory? Where is that?
That's right. We need to gather them, put them in a central location. It can be simple, right? It can be a Word document, just folders on your computer. It just needs to be in the same place.
Right.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm a storyteller, so I have to tell another story.
Let's hear it.
I don't know if you know where the word clue comes from,
Where?
right?
No,
so,
I didn't know.
Greek mythology.
What?
I know. So clue was this ball of yarn that they would unroll as they went through the maze so that they could find their way back out again so that they didn't get eaten by whatever beast was in the maze.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wow.
So a clue, when we talk about clues, is really just following the path so that we don't get eaten by the genealogy monster, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so where's the weirdest place you found a clue?
The weirdest place, well, I rescued one from a burn pile once. We knew my dad's aunt had a whole bunch of stuff, and we kept trying to get it from her, and she just was unresponsive, and then one day she called my dad's sister and said, you know, I have this whole box of stuff that I'm just gonna throw in the burn pile if nobody wants it.
Whoa.
And my aunt freaked out and said, I will send you my UPS shipper number, send it to Krista.
Bless
And there
her.
were clues, there were so many clues in that box to things we'd been looking for forever.
Yay to hear.
I know.
All right, so we're gonna open this up again, if you're brave. What is the weirdest place you have ever found a clue? And I want you to start your statement, since we're live and we're in a big group, I need you to start your statement with the weirdest place I ever found a clue was. Who's got a good one? Back here in the back. Nope, the weirdest place I ever found a clue was. In one of the books your dad used as a bookmark. He had used a clue as a bookmark in one of his books. Oh, fun. How much it cost? How much it cost when you were born in the hospital? Nice. Okay, who else can start a sentence with the weirdest place I ever found a clue was? Anybody? Go ahead.
The weirdest place I ever found a clue was on the back of a grocery store receipt, and it had 4 generations.
Wow.
This is my parents, and this is their parents, and it had coupons on the back, so you had to give in between them.
So she found 4 generations drawn out on the back of a shopping receipt. Awesome. Okay, one more. Go ahead.
The weirdest place I've ever found a clue
Perfect.
was in my grandfather's old pair of shoes.
You found a clue in an old pair of shoes. That's a good one.
Okay.
All right, thank you, you guys.
All right, so now we've gathered all of our clues into one place, but they can't all be important.
So now you get to evaluate and organize and prioritize and analyze. This is my favorite.
This is your favorite part.
This is my favorite part. It's the librarian in me. Yeah. So when I first started doing genealogy, I had been a librarian and I had helped a lot of people with their genealogy, but I was just not all that interested. But I finally saw the light. And we started working on my husband's great-grandparents, and we had this obituary. And in this obituary, it said his great-grandmother was born at this place in Sweden at this time, and this was her name. And all of it was wrong. And it got us off on a wild tangent, and we couldn't get around that for a long time. I started out with a pretty good brick wall because I couldn't find where she was.
So I'm thinking, I think in pictures, right? So as you're talking, you're thinking about all of these clues that you have and you've gathered them together. I'm thinking of it like a colander. So you gather everything and you want all the good stuff to stay in and all the bad stuff to kind of leak out.
Yeah, so it's like we're saving all the juicy goodness from all the clues that we've gathered.
Yeah.
And then you shake it all up and you sift it.
Sifting.
It's like we're
Sifting,
sifting.
yeah, sifting.
Perfect. Sifting.
Sifting. That's what we should call this step, you guys. Let's call it sifting. It's the criteria, well, it seems like there's a lot of criteria. What exactly do people need to know in order to decide which clues they keep in the colander and which ones are going to leak out?
So I think, yeah, you're right. There's a million different ways that we could, evaluate the clues to decide what they really need to think about. But there's some key concepts. So maybe we take this and we break it into just 4 main concepts for sifting. I think we can do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so I think the first one is, did you get everything out of it? So you go back to your clues and you just make sure you get everything out of that clue.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what do you mean?
Because
So,
sometimes I miss things.
So I have my record, my clue, and maybe I've pulled out a name or a date, but are there things I've missed? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like just
occupation,
details.
maybe
Yeah,
I didn't write
yeah,
that down, and
yeah.
I've forgotten what they
Like
did.
sometimes I get so focused on one part and then it just, I forget about the other details that I need, right?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So pull out, get it all. Pull
Yeah,
out
get
the
it
details.
all out.
Okay.
Yep.
Did I get it all? Okay. So then, I think my tip would be, well, I like pictures, right? I want to draw it out. I think I love a timeline, right?
Yeah.
So I take the clues that I have and I map them out on a timeline, and then it helps me to see if there are gaps. Maybe that time periods that I've missed that I should be looking for records in. So maybe timeline would be a good
Absolutely.
method.
Timelines really help me too. And then one of my favorite ones is says who, like hands on your hips, says who. Because if I'd said that to that obituary, I would have realized that the people who filled out that obituary were the children, right? They knew a lot about the death, but they didn't know much about where their mother was born because they'd never been to Sweden. And they even, somehow those kids didn't even really know her right birthday, but says who is a really important thing because an obituary is about the end of somebody's life, and the people who filled out the obituary just didn't know.
Okay, I think I like this. So did you get it all? Get everything into a timeline, look through each record clue that you have and see who says who, and then we have to identify the nuggets out of that, right? I have in my brain this idea of somebody like panning for gold. You have to put a lot of dirt through that sifter until you find those nuggets. So what are the pieces of gold, but specifically the ones that apply to the spotlight question?
Right.
Right,
Because it's
yes.
easy to have all this really great information that could tell a really great story, but if it's not answering your question, you're not getting where you're going. I remember there was this one time, I was at a genealogy conference, and this woman came up to me, and she was just frustrated, and she just said, I have this 20-year brick wall. Why is it always 20 years? I have this 20-year brick wall.
It's true.
I've been looking for my great-grandfather's immigration. I can't find it anywhere. Can you help me? Sure, I'll solve your 20-year brick wall in 5 minutes.
Guys, we know.
You
she
got
can
this.
do this.
Okay, so I said, okay, have you collected all the US federal census records for him? And she went just like this. Yes, I am looking for his immigration. And she said it like I was 2 and didn't understand her.
The corporate genealogist van sister here, folks.
Yeah. And I said, no, I heard you. Have you collected his US federal census records? Yes. Well, can I see them? Fine. So she pulls up her iPad and she pulls up the census records and she's like, here. I said, okay, look. Did you know that right here on the 1900 census, it lists his year of immigration? And it also lists his naturalization status, which in 1900 it looks like he was still an alien citizen. And then in 1910, oh look, here in the 1910 census it lists his immigration year, and they match. That doesn't happen very often. And now he has submitted papers to become a US citizen. So maybe if we go look for his naturalization paperwork, it will list the exact date and ship and port he came into. And I thought she was going to name her firstborn child after me.
Yeah, another one named after you.
Another one, exactly. Okay, so let's just summarize sifting. This is possibly the most important step in family history and the one you will come back to over and over and over again. So step one in sifting, did you get it all? Look at the records you already have. Maybe when you looked at them the first time, you were looking for something specific, you found that information, pulled it out, and left the rest. Go back to the records you have, make sure you got it all. Second, make that timeline. Stretch everything out, put it on paper or your iPad or a whiteboard. Make a big picture, identify the gaps in your timeline, and look for records in those gaps that can inform your spotlight goal. Next, says who, right? Janet says you have to put your hands on your hips every time. Says who. Ask your record, says who. Not every record has an informant, the person who's giving the information, that's reliable. So when you're looking at conflicting information and you're like, I don't know why I have 2 different birth years. Well, which one is going to be the most reliable based on says who? And last, identify the nuggets. So of all the information you've gathered, what is going to be the most valuable for your specific research goal? And pull out those nuggets, and then what?
Well, I think I want to know if these people think that they can take one of these steps and apply it to the research question they thought about. What do you think? Yeah?
By round of applause, who can think of one thing they can do? Oh, come on. Yes!
Good. Okay, so we put it all in that colander, and we've shaken it all up, and we've sifted it. And what if there isn't an answer? Then what?
Well, that's a good question.
Then you have to do genealogy.
Remember,
Well, of
you always
course.
say that.
I always say that. You have to do genealogy, guys.
You always
This
say
isn't
that.
magic.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, wait. No. Before we dive into the genealogy, because that's what everybody wants to do, right?
Yeah.
They just want to sit
Yeah.
down in front of a search engine, like that's going to solve all their problems.
Right.
And
Google it.
Ancestry it.
There you go. You're right.
So before we dive into genealogy, we really need a map of where we're going. You can't just head off to make a discovery if you don't know how to get there, right? And old maps probably aren't going to help you get where you need to go either. Certainly not in the most effective or efficient way, right? So I think that we need not to just dive into doing genealogy, but we have to like
Map it out.
map it out. We should
We should
call
call
that
this one
map.
map.
We
should call
yeah,
this
we should
step
call this
map.
step map.
I think this might be the hardest thing. Like you said, once we identify an idea, a research avenue, we're just like on the path, right?
Yeah.
It's like if we wanted to walk from here in the Salt Palace to the airport, and instead of just walking there, we would stop every 2 minutes and ask someone a question. Would we ever get to the airport?
No.
Where do I go next?
What do I go next? Then what do I do?
Okay. Where do I go next?
Yeah, it would take forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, we're going to bring it out to you again. If you were to map out how you get from what you know to what you want to know, remember the spotlight question. So if you're going to map out from where you are to where you want to be, what is the path that you would take? What are your favorite online sources? What are your favorite offline sources? Think about it for a minute. What's your favorite place to go? Turn to your neighbor and tell your neighbor what your favorite place to go for answers is. And if you're at home online, write it down on that piece of paper. All right? Okay, by a round of applause, how many of you said the FamilySearch Wiki? Okay. FamilySearch Wiki.
How many of you said the Ancestry card catalog?
Woohoo! That FamilySearch Wiki too, right? Yeah, but the Ancestry card
fine.
catalog. How many of you said the FamilySearch card catalog? Oh, okay. I think we all just learned
Do
something
y'all
there.
know about the FamilySearch catalog?
Let's learn.
Let's
What?
learn.
So if you've used the Ancestry card catalog, it's the same. You just go to search and you click on FamilySearch and you go to the catalog. They don't call it a card catalog because apparently it's not 1927 and we're not in a library.
Right.
But they call it a catalog, right? And you go in and you just type in the name of a place or the name of a record type. Or you can even switch it and look for a film number, if you know a film number, or if you've got a clue somewhere. I used to do that. I used to come to the family history library with my dad when I was a teenager. He'd bring me here to Utah. I was that nerd child. Okay. He would bring me here to Utah in the summer, and we would go to the family history library, and we'd have our little yellow legal pads, and we'd like research and research and research, and then I'd write little cryptic notes to myself, and sometimes I'd write down things like film numbers, because you know that's gonna help. And I'd write that down, and then I'd get home with my notes, all these clues that I had collected on little scraps of paper, and then I'd stick them in a file. So, like 10 years later, when I'm getting back into the research and I'm pulling out my notes, I've got my spotlight question, right? I'm gathering my clues. I'm trying to understand my clues. And now I have to map what to do next. And I've got this cryptic little film number.
Guess what?
I can go to the FamilySearch catalog, type in that film number, and I now know exactly what record I was looking at 10 years ago.
Right.
Right?
So if you were thinking that search box on top, and now you're thinking FamilySearch Wiki, Ancestry card catalog, FamilySearch catalog, you just learned something.
Okay. And it's about like deciding how you're going to get from where you are to where you're going. You're not actually taking the trip yet. That's important. Yes. You're actually just trying to figure out how to get from here to there. Mapping doesn't take long, but it requires you asking these two questions. What records exist, and where can I find them? And once you have a really good map of where you're going, now you can do genealogy with a little bit more confidence.
That's right. It's a treasure map. You're creating your own treasure map. You're here, what records exist that can help you. And so you're looking at your timeline and you realize you've got this gap. Well, what records exist in that gap? You need to go to the card catalog and find out what records were in this place at this time, and that goes on your map. You don't look at them yet. This is the hard part, right? Don't look at them yet. You're just writing them down. You're making that path, that treasure map.
And then, like treasure map, you dig at the X at the end, right?
Because digging makes a really good name for a step. I think these are getting easier to name as we go along.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, so digging is about the methodology of doing the digging, though. It's not about evaluating the records or sifting, okay? So we have to keep the steps clear so that we can kind of slow down and work our way through them.
Yeah, this is good.
Or, you know, we wouldn't need this if we hadn't gotten stuck.
Right.
Right. So then what's an example? When you dig, what does that look like for you? If you're not actually like sifting, what does digging then look like?
So digging to me, like when I'm looking for things, I open new tabs so that I don't get lost from where I was. So I open a bunch of new tabs in a browser, and then I kind of record that information, and then I can go back to that first tab and know where I was and keep digging, right? I think digging for me too is just using a lot of different search terms and putting things together differently and really working on like figuring out the best way to search for things.
I transcribe records.
Yeah.
Every time I find a record, I just type up everything in the record just to make sure that I'm actually really digging it all out and not leaving anything behind. And I do that before I ever save a single record to my tree or come to a single conclusion or sift anything together with anything else. I just want to take this record in front of me and make sure I dig it all the way out.
Dig it all the way out.
Yeah.
So I like to take screenshots, and then I save those screenshots in my research log, and then I'll go in, I like use my iPad, and then I annotate all of the screenshots so that I am underlining or highlighting the important clues within that screenshot. So I think it's just so important that we don't just run right into sifting, right? That we're just like gathering the information first before we're evaluating how it matches up with everything else we have.
Right. When you skip that, making sure you've got it all, then you miss things,
Well,
right?
or you jump to conclusions, right?
Yes,
You
exactly.
find the first little thing you dig up and you think, eureka.
Yeah.
But no.
But no, you're getting yourself stuck.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we're gathering all our nuggets, and I think so many people confuse that. But you're going to take them all back to the colander, and it's just like panning for gold, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if I'm still looking for Joseph Butterfield and I make my map, so I decide what my gaps are, what records might help me fill that gap, and I might decide, well, maybe I could find a probate record for him. So I look and I map out where's the time and place that I could find that record. So that's the map step, and then I'm going to go dig for that record, which means I'm just trying to find it. When I find that probate record, I'm not going to go sift it, compare it to all the other information I have. I'm going to transcribe it. I'm going to make sure that I've captured everything in the record, and then I get to go see if it adds new clues.
Yeah, right? So
That's good.
people think they're going to find the answer in the dig step, but really the answer always falls out in the sifting step.
Will you say
And
that one more time?
people think the answer falls out in the dig step, but really it's going to fall out in the sifting step.
Exactly.
So the idea is, I think we've built this process that's going to go step by step by step, and we tend to think linearly, but really I think it's more circular, right? So you have a spotlight question, and then you gather all your clues, and then you sift those clues, and sometimes the answer falls out. But if it doesn't, then you map out what you want to do, and then you dig, and then you throw that stuff you've dug back through into the sifter, right? And then sometimes the answer falls out.
And sometimes it doesn't. And that means we've just created more spotlight questions, which means we get to do more genealogy. Oh, great.
It's good.
Yeah.
I love genealogy.
I love genealogy.
I love genealogy. Spotlight, clues, sift, map, dig. I think we're going to need some fancy graphics.
You're the queen of the cute graphics. I'll let you do that.
Yeah.
I love that I think this process that we've just developed, I think it's going to work for beginners, like people just getting started in family history. I think it's an easy way for them to wrap their minds around, this is how you do genealogy. But I think even for somebody with 20 years of experience is going to really be able to take their brick walls, the places where they're stuck, and walk through this process step by step and have success.
I think it's really good. I think this is going to work. I think we did it.
Guys, I think this will work for DNA. Spotlight means that your question can be answered by DNA, because not all questions can. Clues means you're gathering those DNA matches from maybe multiple DNA testing companies, and you're sifting them by organizing them, by pulling out the matches that are only relevant to your research question. And then you may need to map out additional DNA testing resources. Maybe you need to test at multiple companies. Maybe you need to get more people DNA tested. That will be the map step. And then after that, you're going to dig back into those DNA test results, and hopefully your answer will come after you sift those new results again. Because the answer always comes when? When you sift, not when you dig. Yeah.
And that's why we call you the DNA queen. Or rather, your DNA guide, right? Okay, perfect. All right, this really works for everything. Let's go test it out on some people. All right. Okay. Oh, here, I'll give you a high five. Okay.
Whew.
All right, Krista, I love you. It's so fun to watch you help each of our class members apply this method in their research.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
I think we need to take this to like a big stage where we can help everybody learn about this method. Guys, we should submit a talk to RootsTech.
There you go.
Wait,
Yes.
wait. Before we hit the main stage, we've named every one of these steps, right? We've got spotlight.
Yeah.
We've got clues.
Yeah.
We've got sift, dig, map,
and then
dig,
yeah, map,
and then we're sifting again.
Yeah.
I think we really need a name for this whole framework. Let's see if we can come up
All
with
right.
that.
Okay, brainstorm.
Okay.
How about a path to your people?
Okay.
How about steps to your story?
Oh,
The find them process.
oh no.
You guys, these are
These
really
are lame.
These are
These
lame.
are really lame. Yeah, what do we do? It needs to be fun.
Yeah.
It needs
Like
to
a
be, genealogy's
party,
fun.
like
Yeah,
a
like a search party.
Like you're setting
Yes.
out a search party for your ancestors. It's
Right.
Nice.
Yes.
we got it.
Love it.
All right.
Okay.
We got it.
Okay, RootsTech, here we come.
Oh, we're here.
Oh, hi.
You guys came, thank you. We've been working really hard on what we're calling the search party method. We think it will work for everybody, no matter what your research goal is, no matter your genealogy experience. If you follow this methodology, you can get unstuck and make progress in your family history. But we don't want you to believe us. We want you to see it in action.
And we tried it, and it works extremely well on brick walls for beginners, and it's tested. And if you slow down and use each of these steps, it really works.
So, who would like to be a brave soul and let Krista coach you through this method? Who would like to?
Apparently,
fast.
how much it costs to hire me is $98.
Apparently.
Welcome to
Enter
RootsTech.
Welcome.
Okay, what is your spotlight question?
Or on our website.
10 words or less. Here, let's go. Okay. Yay.
She's her 11th
cousins.
cousin.
My spotlight question is,
It's hard.
it's hard.
You guys,
It's hard. It's
It is
hard.
not easy,
hard.
right?
It's hard.
Especially, and certainly not when you're put on the spot.
Yes.
But you have to really kind of think through exactly what is it that I'm looking for, okay? What is it? So we keep prompting you with my spotlight question is, because sometimes we just need to use that to go whoop, okay? Who else wants to
And then it
try it?
works.
Gentleman in the back.
Yes, stand up. Perfect.
Okay,
Who's
so
your
who is my grandfather's
birth
father? Okay, so that's your spotlight question. Let's see if we can focus it in just a little bit. When and where was your grandfather born? Happy birthday, Grandpa. Okay, so he was born in
birthday, Grandpa.
Switzerland on this date in 1909. And what was his first name? Email. So who is the father of Email, born on March 3rd, 1909 in Switzerland? Okay, there's your spotlight question. What clues do you already have about this? Okay. Birth certificate lists a mother but no father, okay? Okay, did he immigrate to the US? Did he have children? Obviously, he's your grandfather. Lived and died in Switzerland. How many children did he have? Okay, 2 children. You are a descendant of the son or the daughter? The daughter, okay, so your mom. Did the son have any children? Okay.
We think
Okay, so the son had children, but you don't know. I'm going to totally change your spotlight question. Right?
There you go.
Okay, follow along. He wants to know who the birth father is of his grandfather. Grandfather had 2 children. This is a perfect candidate for DNA because birth father is not listed on the birth certificate. And so the spotlight question isn't about finding birth father. The spotlight question is about finding more descendants to DNA test. Right? In fact, if you're looking for the father of a grandfather who had a son, you want to find a son. Right? And now you've got Y DNA. So your question is not, who is the birth father of my grandfather? The question is, did his son have children? Okay?
Awesome.
We got one over here. Hi.
Yes.
I want to know the parents of my great-grandmother.
Okay, who are the parents of my great-grandmother? When and where was your great-grandmother born? Do you hear me ask that a lot? When and where? When and where? When and where? That matters.
When and where?
1884 in Georgia.
Okay, so your great-grandmother was born in 1884 in Georgia, and you do not know who her parents are. What clues have you collected already?
I know she was in 1884 because her death certificate gives her age
Death certificate lists age
and her place of birth.
and place of birth.
All the census records that I have list her place of birth.
What are all the census records?
1900, she was already married, living with her in-laws
Okay, in 1900, she's married, living with her in-laws.
in Tennessee.
Okay,
Tennessee.
you said she was born what year?
1884.
So she was
1884.
16 when she got married? Welcome to Tennessee, okay?
Oops.
My family's from Tennessee, y'all. Okay.
So the other clue that I have maybe locates her in Georgia. They, when her son died in Oregon, they listed his mother's
Place of birth.
Okay.
as Rayburn, North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
No such
Okay, I'm going to repeat what you're saying for the benefit of everybody in the room and at home. Okay, so she has census records starting in 1900, where her great-grandmother is living with her in-laws. She's newly married, but she's living in Tennessee, but it lists her birthplace as Georgia. Then she has traced the children, and one of the sons has a death certificate that lists his mother and her birthplace as Rayburn, North Carolina. And there is no such place. But there is a Rayburn, Georgia. Rabun County, Georgia, okay? So the idea is putting together all the clues. When you start sifting those clues through things like a timeline, through things like knowing what locations really exist, doing a little bit of actual map work with actual maps, right? You start to see some of that. Okay, so let's map some things out for you. Rabun County, Georgia. Have you been to the FamilySearch wiki and card catalog to look up Rabun County, Georgia to see what records exist for that county and when they started keeping birth records?
I haven't done work for about 10 years.
I thought she was going to say 20 years.
But that's probably where I would need to start.
Okay,
where you need to start.
so the mapping step for her, so she's on the map step, right? So over here we had to start back at Spotlight and refine that. She's on the map step. So she needs to go to the FamilySearch wiki and the FamilySearch card catalog and look up Rabun County, Georgia, and see what records exist for that place in that time. Maybe check the Ancestry card catalog, see what records, if any of those records are available online. Maybe check the Georgia State Archive website or see if Rabun County has a county historical society. Map out exactly what resources you can start digging in when you jump into this next. Okay? Okay, do we have time for one more?
One more.
Okay, we have time for one more. I feel like anybody on
Who's
this
brave?
side of the room, I don't want to leave you out. Nobody's that brave. Okay, we're gonna try again.
justifiable.
Let's go. Yep. Oh, sorry.
Good.
Okay.
Looking for a grandfather's birth certificate.
Okay.
Around 1890 in the British West Indies.
Okay, let me just repeat your spotlight question. Looking for my grandfather's birth certificate in the 1890s in the British West Indies. It's very specific. Awesome.
That's very good.
Okay, so you've got a marriage license. Does that marriage license list his age? Okay,
Sounds specific.
And does it list his birthplace or no? Where did he get married? Okay, that makes perfect sense. He went to Britain to get married.
He went to Britain. Can you hear her sifting and getting all those nuggets out?
It also lists his father's name, but no.
His marriage record lists his father's name because he got married in Britain, of course. Okay.
What else? I think that's all I have.
Okay, have you found him in any English censuses?
No.
Okay, so we're going to stick a few things on our map right away.
I have one other item. I have a U.S. draft card.
You have his draft card?
Yeah. How's it got here?
For the U.S.
You have a U.S. draft card?
Wow.
Are you sure it's the same guy? Okay, so all the records that you have so far, which include a marriage record and a draft card, say he was born in the West Indies, British West Indies. He gets married 20-ish years later in the Cotswolds in England. You have a marriage record, lists his father's name and his age. Then you have a U.S. draft card. Is it a World War I draft card or a World War II draft card? So the World War I draft happened in 1917, 1918, but you said he got married in 1919. Ah. Timeline this. British West Indies, U.S., World War I, now he's in England. Okay? So there's a path there. So you might want to see if he actually ended up not just filled out a draft card, but actually was drafted. That will give you some information. And then you need, excuse me, you need to go see if there's a 1921 England census. If he stayed in England after the war? No. They came back to the US. What year was your father born? See, still collecting clues. Your dad was born in 1921 where? In New York. Okay, so then on the 1930 census?
They were here, but my grandfather doesn't show up here. It's my grandmother.
So he's out of the house. Is he missing or is he dead?
No, he's in a mental institution.
Probably PTSD. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's in a mental
okay.
institution
So
with
okay.
PTSD.
So I want to make sure we kind of let this breathe for a second, because what you just watched was us actually going through the process of sifting all the clues. Now, when you're doing it with all your records in front of you and maybe a timeline or a spreadsheet or handwriting things out, that's kind of the process you have to go through. You have to put all the little pieces in order, but you also have to make sure you have all the little pieces. Right, because that's going to tell a story. Now, she's still looking for a birth record. That was her original spotlight question, and I think it's still a good question. What I'm trying to suss out is, are all the records consistent, right? Does the marriage record say he was born in the British West Indies? Does the draft card say that? Does the census record or the records from the mental institution all say that? And do they ever say anything more specific than that? Or do they just say British West Indies? So no town or city is ever listed. Does he ever become a US citizen? Okay, so does he show up on any US census records? Okay, so on the 1920 census, check for naturalization status. I'm trying to think if it shows up on that census. There's one that it doesn't. Because if he became a US citizen, in the process of naturalization, he would have had to fill out his exact birth date and place. And that might give you a more specific location. The other thing you're going to want to do is go to the FamilySearch wiki, look up British West Indies, because that's going to tell you exactly how their records are organized. I would tell you, but I don't know, because I've never done research in the British West Indies. But I don't know if they have a central, like general registrar's office like England does, or if everything's done by county or state like it is here in the US. So checking that out to figure out how those birth records were kept, when they started keeping them, and where those records are. You can do that on the FamilySearch wiki.
FamilySearch wiki, yep.
Okay.
Round of applause. Thank you for being so brave. Thank you for being so brave to come on live with us on RootsTech and wow, for knowing your research and being able to do it on the fly like that. Very, very well done. Thank you. All right. Ladies, I think we got it.
We have about 5 minutes. Are there any questions that we can answer for you? So we do have a booth,
About
a
the
search
method.
party booth in the exhibit hall. and we'll be around. But FYI, we've turned this into a course. If you're interested in really learning this process, we've made a course with the workbook where you work through case studies so you can learn all of these steps for yourself and then apply it in your own research as well. It looks like we have a question over here. Yes, sir.
I have a fundamental problem that I have so much of my family history that's done, goes back a long ways, that I want to find.
He has so much done.
And I feel like there are missing people, but I've had trouble focusing.
So,
I find all these people, but I don't know how to identify those that are missing.
all right, so
Okay.
his question is, how do I identify missing descendants of ancestors or missing ancestors that when it looks like the research has already been done? What step do we think he's on?
What step do you think he's on?
Spotlight.
Spotlight.
He's
Yeah.
got to get focused.
So
right?
he needs to come up with a spotlight question that's going to allow him to focus.
So choose one branch, one ancestor, and ask, do I have all of the siblings of X ancestor?
I don't know how to answer that.
Well, that's what the method teaches you. So
So for example, like I have a lot of my research has been done as well,
Yeah,
because I've been doing it. My parents have been doing it. Everybody does it. Okay. And so my current spotlight question in my own personal research is, who are all of the children of Jonathan Sanford Dunlap and Ann Sears? And so I've got this couple, and now I have started like gathering all the clues. So I have all these clues about who people think their kids are, the child I descend from, right? I've looked at what the tree on FamilySearch says. I've looked at what trees on Ancestry say, and now I've got this pile of stuff. I also have DNA tested my mom and her siblings and cousins, and so I have this pile of DNA clues. And now I'm just in the process of sifting through all of those clues to see exactly, do I have all the children? Are these the right people? Like, do I have DNA connections to people that I don't know who they are? And every time I do that, right, so here's the thing. This is my big spotlight. But every single time I start working with a new set of clues or a new set of DNA matches, I give myself a more specific spotlight question. How am I exactly related to this DNA match?
Yep.
DNA is a fantastic method for descendancy research. Absolutely. Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up because otherwise they just cut us off and then we're like mid online and then we look really strange. So I hope you have had fun. I hope this felt different because we wanted it to feel a little more fun, a little different. We've had so much fun over the last year. I hope that you can tell
In Japanese restaurants, in the Riverton Family History
Library.
Center.
Yeah, and it's been. I feel like it has helped me organize my own research.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
thinking through this method constantly.
Yeah.
Just slow down and follow the steps.
Yeah.
You got it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for coming.